The West Asia crisis is hurtling towards a dangerous new phase. Iran's foreign ministry has warned the United States that it will be accountable for Israel's ceasefire violations in Lebanon and Gaza. In a long statement, Iran's foreign ministry says that they will continue to make use of all their capabilities based on their right of self-defense to protect their interests whenever necessary. Tehran has also said that ceasefire violation in one front is equal to violation on all fronts. The statement comes amid reports that Iran has suspended negotiations with the United States via its intermediaries. Now, according to a hard-hitting statement carried by Iran's Tasnim news agency earlier, Tehran said their negotiating team will halt all talks and exchanges of texts through their intermediaries with Washington. The move comes in protest against what Iran described as Israeli crimes in Lebanon and Gaza. As we speak, the President of the United States went on record across several U.S. media channels saying that he is unaware of Iran's decision to suspend talks. However, Trump, while speaking to NBC and also CNBC, downplayed the suspension of talks, saying that he, quote, does not care if negotiations are over. But he also added that this did not mean that the U.S. is, quote, going to go and start dropping bombs all over there. Trump said that he would soon decide whether or not to extend the ceasefire that has been in place since April. Amid these developments and escalations, Israeli media has reported that President Trump has spoken to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Iran, on its part, insists that a ceasefire in Lebanon remains a key condition for any broader agreement. Tehran argues that the ceasefire has now been violated on multiple fronts and says no dialogue will resume until their demands are met. The statement underscores what Iran called the determination of its armed forces and the wider resistance front to respond to Israeli actions and open new fronts across the region. But the most explosive warning concerns global shipping lanes. Iran says it has resolved to completely block the Strait of Hormuz and activate other fronts, including the Bab al-Mandeb Strait, in what it describes as a move to punish Israel and its supporters. The latest deadlock in talks comes after Israeli strikes hit a hospital in Tyre. The health ministry also shared footage showing heavy damage to the facility. United Nations also raised alarm of a Lebanon situation and called all sides to respect the ceasefire. The United Nations Security Council is expected to convene an emergency meeting to discuss Israel's expanded military operations in Lebanon. The European Union has also urged Israel to halt what it calls a military escalation. Mr. Giorgio Cafiero is a professor at Georgetown University and CEO of Gulf State Analytics, is now joining us live from Washington, D.C. Professor Cafiero, it's good to see you. I just want to know from you and your opinion, do you think Israel is playing spoilsport? Because Trump on one hand says he has not received any thing that Iran doesn't want to continue the talks with the United States. But at the same time, he just had a call with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. What is happening?
Well, I'm inclined to assume that Israel is succeeding to some degree in playing a spoiler role. I'm sure all your viewers are aware that Israel is the one country in the world that has vested interests and seen to it that there is no triumph of diplomacy when it comes to the crisis between Washington and Tehran, unless that outcome brings about 100% capitulation on the part of the Islamic Republic. As far as Israel is concerned, this military campaign against Iran is incomplete. Israel also has its own vested interests in continuing its aggression on Lebanon, and therefore any sort of a deal that can extend the ceasefire by 60 days or potentially lead to a more lasting cessation of hostilities between the U.S. and Iran would be very nightmarish from Tel Aviv's perspective. So what we're seeing now with diplomatic efforts seeming to prove somewhat futile and these tensions are ratcheting up again, it seems that the Netanyahu government is sort of getting what it wants.
I just want to know from you, Professor, Is Israel avenging because it has been left out of talks, it has been left out of deals, it is not for the United States and Iran making a deal? What do you think is really happening here?
Well, I think Israel felt, at least the leadership in Israel felt very threatened by the momentum that we saw in diplomacy between the US and Iran that was being facilitated by Pakistan and supported by other states in the region, such as the Sultanate of Oman, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Turkey. And I think that what's interesting in a grander geopolitical context is the emergence of a quad of Sunni powers in the region, again, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, that are trying to bring about greater stability in West Asia, trying to fortress countries from Israeli aggression, and to also shield them from the chaotic instability stemming from this conflict that the US and Israel waged on Iran. And I think Israel has been nervous about this quad being able to succeed in achieving its objectives. And from Israel's perspective, any sort of an outcome that results in Tehran maintaining any degree of nuclear infrastructure, any outcome in which economic pressure on the Islamic Republic is eased, any outcome that doesn't result in sort of the dissolution of Iranian support for various non-state actors in the Arab world. All of those scenarios are nightmarish for Israel.
Professor, sorry to stop you, but we have two breaking news coming in from